We sort of had the same thing in America already, maybe to a lesser extent, but like we have something of a social credit system where if you say the wrong thing now, like Kanye said, I can't use my Apple Pay anymore. Or even with like the digital currency. I mean, when's the last time anyone here has bought something with cash? It's been a
Kanye can't use Apple Pay?
Yeah, he made a video. He made a video saying specifically he's running for president of the United States, specifically because Adidas contacted Apple and Apple shut down his ability to pay for things.
Yeah.
Which he said was insane, and they're punishing the. Do you remember exactly what he said in that video?
I didn't watch.
I don't want to paraphrase it, but he went on a rant saying this is why I want to run for president of the United States, because if they could do this to me, what are they doing to everyone else?
This is the meme though. The meme where like the person goes to the supermarket and then you have to use your phone to buy something and it says your credit card has been disabled due to, you know, insensitive comments made online or something.
And so that's the thing. It's like in China, if we live there, yeah, they're draconian and you can't criticize the government. But if you criticize, you know, LGBT stuff, which doesn't exist there because they ban it, it's like you'll be at a greater liberty to do things like that. And so this is sort of the problem that America had. We made a calculation where, okay, if we open up the markets with China in the latter half of the 20th century, their economic prosperity is going to make them more liberalized because everything's going to be fine. Our companies are going to go over there. And then it backfired where now you're empowering this country that is hyper-nationalist, frankly racist, ethno-nationalist, and very traditionalist. And now they're going to try to compete, like you said, with the US on the world stage. And they're like totally resistant to all the woke stuff that the US wants to do. They made another calculation where they said, okay, social media is becoming very popular. We're going to censor American social media platforms. We're going to build our own. Conservatives called that, you know, Orwellian, but now you don't have kids in China talking about switching their genders, doing things like that, because that's frankly, that's like how the US has soft power in other countries. We have our media companies going and incepting these ideas into people's minds, and China said, no, we don't want that. They're doing the same thing to us though, where if you have TikTok in China, you're seeing videos of people that are, you know, playing piano, that are proficient in the maths and the sciences. But if you download TikTok in America, you get a totally different algorithm. You get very degenerate, depraved content because they're trying to take the youth, which is the future that could maybe compete with them, and just make it completely demoralized.
But now there's even Democrats saying they want to ban it.
Yeah.
Which I think is weird, kind of crazy, but maybe TikTok should have been banned. There's a challenge to this. Should a company be able to, should TikTok be allowed to operate an algorithm that is sending detrimental content to kids? Or should our government, for national security reasons, be like, dude, this is destroying us from the inside out, and take it out and remove it? I've had people, libertarians, tell me that I was being fascist or being authoritarian by arguing the app should be banned. And I'm like, I get it, but I've never been an anarchist or a hardcore libertarian. I've always been kind of just a liberal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these are not private companies. We have to understand these are state-run institutions that are running larger psyopses, that are running what some people describe as fourth or fifth generational warfare, where specifically it is used to not only demoralize, but to destroy human beings' attention span, destroys people's ability to coexist in society, destroy relationships, destroys families. This is the larger consequences of a government-engineered action, and therefore, I would argue, it's not a private company. They don't deserve the protections of a private entity.
But if TikTok were banned in the US, wouldn't something worse just crop up that is made by Americans?
Like YouTube Shorts?
Yes, like YouTube Shorts is somehow lower IQ than TikTok and Instagram Reels. Like something worse will come up created by Americans, and we don't need China's help becoming
you could censor that too.
more demoralized. You know, like we're doing this mostly to ourselves.
Most libertarians, they're very fine people, but they are usually either like teenagers or like these sort of disaffected Gen Xers who were angry at their dads for like catching them smoking weed in the garage or something. It's just not serious. So yeah, I think it should be.
Come on, straw man.
Is it?
Yeah. We've had smart libertarians on the show.
It's not that they're not smart.
So here's a good example. What's his name? Austin Peterson. Very smart guy, very nice guy. I was a big fan of him back in 2016. I had a debate with him on Elijah Schaffer's show, and we went back and forth on libertarianism. And what I find with libertarians is ultimately, because we agree on what we want the ideal society to be, you know, this constitutional republic, everything is laid back, freedom. But where libertarians tend to disagree with people like myself is on what to do with the acquisition of power, how to go about that, how to go about using it. And we got into this, like, ultimately meaningless back and forth between like, okay, how do you want to go about taking power and then asking power to delete itself? Because the other side wants to take power and use it to like kill you. So
there's a great meme I saw. It was on Patriots.win, the Donald Forum, which I'm sure everybody knows, our good friends over at Patriots.win. And it was this really crude paintbrush drawing where it said, Democrat vote, Republican vote, Libertarian vote. And it was like Democrats 800,000, Republicans 799,999,
Yeah.
Libertarian vote 2, and then it said winner, no more guns.
Yeah.
And it was just like, if the Libertarians were just like, okay, I guess we have to accept that this preserves at least some of our rights, then the Republican. That being said, I get it. I remember hearing some conservatives say something similar to that, like libertarians need to recognize that voting Republican preserves more of their rights than not. And I'm like, yeah, but if the libertarians hate you, don't expect them to vote for you. Figure out how you get their vote. Sure, you agree on these core issues, ask them what they don't agree with you on. Typically, you'll find out it's like war or something. So I think the real opportunity right now is Donald Trump opposed all of that. Not perfectly, I know, Luke. But if we can get more America First types who are like, hey, we don't want foreign intervention in foreign war, you'll see more libertarians be like, okay, that I'll take.
Look, the Libertarian Party is an absolute joke. I absolutely agree with that. They're candidates or just non-professional people that made themselves look bad and made everyone else look bad. But if you're looking at a problem and saying, hey, there's a lot of government here, we're going to solve it with more government, that to me is just an idiotic take that doesn't really make sense to me, as of course you're replacing a cancer with more cancer, when in reality I think the biggest basis of a kind of anarchist perspective, which again counters even the libertarian perspective, is that the solution should be within personal responsibility, within an individual being the best version of themselves to, of course, beat out all the bull crap out there and not stand and not be a victim and not be someone that needs government and not incentivize more of it in your life.
And I think that's kind of the problem with the libertarian ethos. It sort of assumes the perfectibility of the individual. It gives them almost this opportunity to like, hey, you can exist and you can be trusted with freedom. And that may have been the case in, the 1700s, but now this society, I mean, the founding fathers said that our Constitution was written for a moral and religious people. It would be wholly inadequate for any other group of people. Now the average American in this country is like this overweight, porn addicted, like drug user, and we expect this guy to be trusted with freedom.
That was brutal.
And it's true. And so you're seeing this all happen, and the libertarians think that like any power, any state power is bad. I would offer the distinction that we like to use with like gun rights, for example. What's the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun? A good guy with a gun. You can vote libertarian. You can say, hey, you should delete the power you have. And they're just gonna be like, okay, you're non-threatening. That's why no libertarian, unless they want to call for a revolution, which they really like to do, they like to fantasize about these, big mass conflict scenarios, they never get banned from social media, because what they're saying is fundamentally not threatening, because they're just saying, hey, state, go away. And then you've got people like Trump, people who are more authentically right-wing, saying, actually, I want to infiltrate the state, kick out the communists, make it illegal for them to occupy power, and then make the country great again. That's threatening, and that's why those people, myself included, get banned.
Maybe we need iron fist libertarianism.
I disagree with
Where,
any
well, hold on,
form
hold on, hold on.
of totalitarianism.
I didn't say that.
And
I
any
said,
form
hold
of
on.
top-down centralization
I didn't
of
say
power.
that. I didn't say that. I said iron fist libertarianism, meaning.
Or you got to lube it up or something?
Yes. No.
No.
I'm kidding. Calm down. Look, you're freaking out before I even explained what I mean.
I'm joking here.
A libertarian party that respects the rights of the individual, that enshrines the rights of the individual, guarantees them within the confines of the law, and recognizes they have to be threatening to those that would seek to destroy and steal the power from the people. Like the point I'm trying to make is, the founding fathers, I think, were that. They were like, the individual is the smallest minority, and people have these rights, and here's the Bill of Rights, and we're going to war with Britain to secure them. Yeah. Now the Libertarian Party is like, guys, hold on there a minute. We shouldn't do that because that goes against our values. And it's like, okay, the libertarians that oppose borders, I think, are silly. Sorry. Like, I understand what you mean when you're like, borders are imaginary lines. I didn't argue with this libertarian. He's like, you think that imaginary line exists? And I'm like, no, I think we've asserted we guarantee and protect our rights. And this is as far as we can protect and are willing to enforce upon the land. We have defined the space as what we guard, what is ours. And within it, we respect the rights, the human rights and the constitutional rights of the people here.
Look, how do I just refuse to lick the boot. That's just me, my own personal perspective. You make some very good, valid points, and I agree with you with some of them. But at the end of the day, how do we deal with this kind of fat, porn-addicted loser that, of course, is destroying themselves? To me personally, people would argue like, hey, these people who are victims of this, who are going for the short-term pleasures, are going to kind of ruin themselves, not have families, not reproduce. This gives opportunities for people to, of course, be the best versions of themselves. But how do you, and I think, incentives incentivizing healthy people, families, good diets, exercise is something that should be done. But how do you do that on a state level without being an authoritarian, without being like the Chinese government?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Where's the balance?
So this is sort of the problem where the right in the last 60 years has inherited the worst parts of libertarianism without the good parts of it. So like the reason we lose is because, we are the graceful losers, the beautiful losers. We have principles. We're not going to fight dirty. It's better to lose with dignity than to play their game. And so now we all have to eat food and use those calories and convert those into thoughts about how to argue against children being like having these surgeries performed. That is so unspeakable. Imagine telling that to someone 50 years ago, like, yeah, you're actually going to have to like set aside time to think about arguments as to why this shouldn't happen. That's what modern conservatism has brought to the American people. We have failed to conserve everything up until like literally now your kids are going to be taken from you if you disagree with that.
That's crazy. I agree with you. I want to expand on that. It's absolute individualism with no responsibility.
Yes.
It is police officers running away from school shootings. It is the Uvalde cop saying, I'm not going in there. It's the security guard in Parkland being like, I'm going to run the other direction. I was talking about this on one of my segments earlier because I had a t-shirt. It's the rooster that says stand your ground. And it's our rooster, Roberto Jr. He's a cartoon. He's like, ah. And what I said was, I thought it was funny. I think roosters are cool. And it's kind of interesting to me that chicken, historically for us in our colloquial English, is a reference to someone being a coward, despite the fact that roosters will sacrifice their lives to save their hens. We used to look at what chickens were, even a rooster running full speed towards a fox and dying, like as cowardly. Like that's kind of strange to me how something like that emerged. And then today, we don't even have police officers who are willing to risk their lives to save children as it's happening in front of them. I'm like, okay, we're at the point where our politicians, where our law enforcement are just like, I'm not going in there. I'm not risking my neck for you.
Yeah.
And that means society is broken.
Because, everybody is so atomized and so selfish. And so this is sort of the problem with it. Like, all of the things that are from the top down, because we sort of live in this like ideological cumulative tyranny where it's not as obvious as the tyranny that we were taught by Hollywood to fear, where it's one party that controls everything. All of these corporations, all of these institutions, NGOs, media, academia, government, they're all on the same page, even if they're not all under the same flag, but they are, and it's usually the pride flag. But they still all are on the same page and they're believing these things. And so they, from the top down, are demoralizing the American people by pushing into their eyes at virtually, anything you go, whether it's advertisements, social media, all of this like depraved content. And that's where you get the escapism, where people don't feel like they have any righteous future prospects. They think it's going to be harder for them to find a moral spouse, harder for them to start a family, to get a good job without amassing tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And so that's the escapism. Whereas like a man 50, 60 years ago would be like, factory town, I'm going to do what my dad did. He would kind of have an idea. Now men are like, I don't know, I'm just going to like smoke weed and play video games and do whatever. And that's all just different forms of escapism. And so I don't think the answer to that problem is simply like smaller government, things like that. You have to actually use some form of power in this country to cut off the capacity of evil people to do that to your native population. And that's the only way that you're ever going to be able to have a people with a clear mind who can then pursue liberty, which is defined in the pre-modern understanding as just the ability to pursue good without evil trying to basically like get in your way.
I want to read a super chat real quick, just as it's a very good one. It's from Fuke You. And they say 4 white men and 1 white woman explaining politics. Whoa, 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 whoa. First of all, Luke's a person of color. I'm mixed race. Serge is African American. And Mary's a ghost. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.